parents, the child goes to the teacher who will guide that child.
What do you mean by external moral authority? You use that expression a lot.
Materialism has to do with when you are
Hello, welcome back to the course in Values and Spirituality. Today we will be looking at pages 74 and 75 of Book 1. I would like to introduce Sister Denise to those of you who are joining us for the first time. Sister Denise, welcome back.
Thank you.
As far as implications for society is concerned, I'd like to start off with what is contained at the bottom of page 74. Education and values disseminated through many channels of communication promises to increase individual awareness and provide people of all ages and social groups with the necessary tools and skills to resist pressure to conform to malpractices. When I read this, I couldn't help but wonder, is there a hunger in people to become this?
Well, nowadays there is so much focus of attention on what is happening to the world. You have the environmental question, climate change, which is being attributed to human behavior, and you have the reaction to the massive movement of people, which is because of partly war and partly climate refugees. You have tremendous financial instability because of the way global finances are run. You have very severe overpopulation problems. All of this has created so much stress on the infrastructures, on people, that it kind of pushes people back to some kind of primitive reactiveness. And people are behaving in a survivalist way. And then they say, well, no, we can't be like this. We have to move forward. We have to do something. So it's a very strong impetus at the moment.
When education and values is integrated into education at all levels and provided to both genders equally, it properly equips people for civic life. It's quite far-reaching as to how the impact of education is felt. Do people who are in positions of authority and power understand the far-reaching impact? Is equipping people for civil life on the agenda or not?
The people who are in positions of power and authority nominally are not the same as the power that is being taken by people much more generally, including young people. I think social media has changed this situation, and somebody who may not be in a position of power governmentally or educationally or whatever, they are in a position of power because they have a voice, they're using that voice, and they're saying what they want to say and assuming power. So power is coming into the hands of people because people are taking power into their hands. And so this means that also girls are claiming their power more. They're not waiting for somebody to empower women. Nobody ever did that, nor will they ever. If you want power, you have to claim it. And people have realized this.
When you say if people want power, they have to go to claim it, do they claim it from outside or inside?
Once you get the idea that if you want power, you have to claim it, then you have to start thinking what's involved in claiming, going out there and get it, or going in there and get it, both ways.
Okay,
But you're not thinking of yourself as a disempowered person who's waiting for somebody to give you power. I think that penny has dropped and people realize nobody's going to give you any power. If you want power, you go and get it.
I don't think people realize that it's as I won't say easy as that, but that's the logic of it. I don't think people realize that.
Because it's been in the conversation, you hear it, this word empowerment of women, women's empowerment. Who is going to empower women? Those who disempowered them? I don't think so. Women have to empower themselves. Young people have to empower themselves. Disabled people have to empower themselves. This is what is coming through. And so because you have access like you never had before due to the internet, if you want to find out about something, if you want to read a book, you don't have to see if it's in the bookshop. You go get it on the internet. If you want to find out what's going on in the world, you go on the internet and you learn to navigate your way around it. Of course, there's lots of junk on the internet. Everything is there. So you find your way around and you come to understand what you need to know. And that makes people much more independent.
People with greater awareness can then contribute to shifting deeply entrenched social attitudes, including the general acceptance of corruption, bribery, and nepotism as part of life, and direct or indirect antagonism against women, children, or people of a lower caste. That is a seismic shift.
All of this that we're working with here has the potential to really change the face of India and the face of the world. And of course there's going to be lots of resistance to change, and even people who choose to be agents of change will sometimes have doubts, should I be doing this and so on. But follow the voice of conscience, be in close touch with your essential spiritual qualities, and you will see that you have to move forward.
What is it about forward moving that is so spiritually attractive?
What you hear about people accepting the hell that they know and not going to a possible heaven that they don't know because of being so fixed and attached to what they know. I think the special mechanism is the willingness to take a leap into the unknown. And I think that idea has reached its time, and people are more confident to take a leap into the unknown, because I think they'd rather do something than do nothing.
As a result of all of these vices that you just mentioned, there is a strong feeling of apathy amongst individuals. How does one go beyond the feeling of apathy and do what is contained in your last line, which reads, such enlightened attitudes can also boost the confidence of socially disadvantaged individuals and encourage them to claim their self-respect? That is a major thing to happen to somebody. But if you have apathy, how do you pull yourself out of it?
I believe that apathy is connected with isolation from other things which could really powerfully encourage you. And when people are connected, there's so much networking going on, there's so many ways in which a person can be physically in an isolated place, but because of technology they're connected in. And so I think the apathy happens when you remain disconnected. But there's so much to connect you. Emails, this, that, people who don't even know you very well can stimulate you. You know.
People then become sensitized to the value of nature and to taking proper care of the natural environment. Is this one of the natural consequences?
Yes, because you have a culture of people who care what happens. And so you can be quite easily swept along by that. And it corresponds to something that is actually in your heart. You want to have a better world. You want to live in a clean environment, everybody feels better when the environment is clean and tidy and people look well and are smiling. You know, misery is not attractive. So the other thing is, when you go and you see articles on something or something, there are always references which take you to something else. So there's just so many ways of getting connected, and through getting connected, getting inspired, and then you see that what you thought you couldn't do anything, and you find you can do something. You get linked into different networks, and then you're not so alone or isolated, or you may feel that in your community you're the only one who thinks this particular way. When you're linked in with other people who think like you, then you don't feel that you're the only one and maybe you're crazy. There's other people like you too.
I'd now like to take you on to what is contained in the last part of the second paragraph. Education and values can inspire people to act upon that awareness. This form of education also serves to empower people to resist tendencies to greed, selfishness, and violence in thought, word, and action. I have a feeling that you're going to bring in the law of karma again, and I can't wait to know what you have to say about this.
Yeah, obviously the law of karma applies here very much, but the thing about this form of education that we're doing is, part of the methodology is that you talk about it to people that you know who may not be studying it, or you inspire somebody to study it with you. People like to study together, and you're working with your own feelings, and then some of the words that are on the pages here, some of the examples that are given, and you're getting exposure to something you hadn't had before. Maybe the messages you receive from archaic social values are, there isn't anything else except the values of greed and selfishness and violence, and they are described as values, and maybe it doesn't suit your conscience. And then when you see there's other ways of thinking and other ways of acting, and then you start bringing in the philosophy of karma, you see very clearly that the archaic social values lead to loss and suffering. So why would you do that? Doesn't make any sense.
I think viewers are surprised to note how far-reaching a good, decent spiritual education can take one. It has so many implications, and by travels like that to various levels of society.
Exactly, and because it's so relevant, and it applies to right here, right now, your own personal situation.
I would now like to go on to Visions of a Better India, and I must say that term is very beautiful, Visions of a Better India. We need to recognize the power of each individual to inspire and effect change. I think that there are very few individuals who consider themselves to be game changers. I once heard an expression that went, it is extraordinary how extraordinary the ordinary person is.
Yes.
Yeah, it is. I don't know who said it, but it always stayed with me. But unfortunately, I think that people who consider themselves ordinary haven't taken the time to tap into their extraordinariness. And when I read this line, I thought, every single person can lift the finger of cooperation as far as change is concerned. What is your take on it?
Well, sometimes a person looks at themselves and says the word, I'm only a student, I'm only a poor person, I'm only having very basic education, I don't have power, I don't have influence. And even messages come from outside, who are you? You'll never amount to anything, you're just ordinary. So that message is reinforced from the outside and from the inside. But President Abdul Kalam had really given a lot of inspiration to people in India. First of all, he's a scientist. Second of all, he's a visionary. And, you know, one was used to a president belonging to really the old school. And here came someone who was modern, who had a lot of exposure to the Western ideas, and who could articulate his vision in such a down-to-earth way that people could say, yes, this is doable, I can do this.
What struck me the most about his speech is what is contained at the bottom of page 76. It reads, why are we as a nation so obsessed with foreign things? We want foreign TVs, we want foreign shirts, we want foreign technology. Why this obsession with everything imported? Do we not realize that self-respect comes with self-reliance? This is so powerful. I can see why you wrote an entire book around this. It is so powerful. Could you take the viewer into the depths of this, please? And what it means, how to get there, and its implications for the student of spirituality.
Going back to the archaic values, they really teach people that they belong like a cog in a machine. They fit somewhere and they have to go with how the machine goes. They don't have any independence of movement or thinking or functionality, and that what you have to do is accept where you are and just keep spinning in that place. You can't have self-respect like that. When you realize that you're not part of a machine. There is a big machine going on, definitely, the social machinery is there, but that you have choice about how you fit and where you fit, and all of these things are negotiable. This is something new for a lot of people. Your self-respect comes from recognizing that I am responsible for what happens to me, and I have the power to decide what happens to me. And then you start to achieve different things, which then become stepping stones for achieving something else. When you, on the basis of your own work, your own creativity, achieve something, you do it, and people look at you and say, I told you you are not capable of doing this, and you did it, and you did it well, you know? A person who gets that when other people tell me I can't do it, there's nothing true about it, it's just simple discouragement, their thinking starts to change. And instead of agreeing that I can't, I'm not allowed to, and it'll never happen, the voice starts going, I can, I will, and I'm going to, and if you don't like it, I don't mind. But then when you do it, and people start rewarding you for it, you see, this is where your self-respect comes in.
Yeah, that is also a lifelong journey, isn't it? You add to your self-respect every day. I have another question on self-respect. It is said that respect of individuals is always earned. Your own respect, is it also earned?
I think it's definitely earned because it's connected with the feeling of accomplishment. You get an inspiration. You decide you're going to do something. You try it. It fails. You feel bad. And you may be fully discouraged. Somebody who won't allow themselves to be discouraged by failure, who will just go back in there until they succeed, the feeling that comes when they do succeed is very buoyant. And other people, the way other people look at you is different. I remember a very interesting experience that I had when I did parachuting. And I jumped from an airplane.
Okay, tell us about parachuting.
Well, it was an interesting story because before I did that, a lot of people were telling me, your problem is you're just a fearful person, and that's that, and you're just too fearful and you'll never amount to anything. And then I got an opportunity to do skydiving. And someone said, would you like to go skydiving? I said, yes, you know. And I really did it very carefully, seeing what my feelings were at every step of the dive. And you know, the person who was instructed me said, well, what do you want to do? And I said, well, what's possible? Well, you could do triple backward flip if you want. I said, okay, we'll do triple backward flip. And how high can we go? Well, normally you do 8,000, but this is the last flight of the day, so we're going to jump from 16,000 feet. So I said, great, that's good. And off we went and did it. And I thought, you know, do you land like a bird or an insect? And I was just looking and feeling. I said, no, I must keep my eyes open in this. I wanted to feel, is your heart, you know, fluttering or what? And I found I was totally calm, totally capable, landed beautifully like an insect. But then afterwards, I said, oh yeah, I just did a skydive. And they said, you did what? You're not capable of doing that. I said, well, I'm terribly sorry. Did it. Here's my certificate. So when you achieve something that other people may be afraid to do or something, they start looking at you differently, which causes you to start looking at yourself differently as well.
Well, but that's quite a story, Sister Denise. I somehow never thought of you as the parachuting type. Okay, so the point of the story is that you proved something to yourself.
Not really. You had an opportunity to do something that normally you don't have an opportunity. You were up for it. But I think the point of the story is when you do something that other people tell you you can't do, instead of just believing it and restricting yourself, say, well, we'll see, you know, whether I can or cannot do this. And then when you do it, those very same people who look at you as incapable and incompetent, they start looking at you as something that is higher than them. And so it changes your sense of self vis-a-vis public opinion. Because public opinion has a lot of impact on people. You know, and most people are told who they are and what they can and cannot do. And if you go against public opinion and you do something that they said you're never going to be able to do, or an artist, so you'll never make a living with your art, you say, well, actually, I earn my living just fine, you know. And you're challenging presumptions and prejudices, and you're really breaking through certain glass ceilings, certain glass walls, and it's very important for a person's self-regard.
We then come to the summary, which is contained in pages 80 and 81 of Unit 2, and having read through it, I picked up that you focus on the necessity of teaching values to adults. Also, you draw the reader's attention to the fact that the power of the oral tradition in forming social attitudes is significantly greater than the laws enacted by the governments. That is what I picked up from your summary. There are other aspects, but this is what struck me. So, this is the note on which we are ending Unit 2. Having covered 2 units of Book 1 already, what would you like the reader to know in essence about Unit 2? What would you have liked the viewer to have learnt by now?
I think when people come to this course, they come with certain assumptions and preconceptions. And many of those assumptions and preconceptions have been challenged and unpacked and deconstructed by these first 2 units. So what I would like is for people to understand that there is a massive clash of cultures and clash of values going on, which you see very much in India, because the ancient societal values and social attitudes are really clashing with the modern views which come with saying that liberal, democratic, human rights-based values are better. And now which of these is better, you have to see. And instead of allowing compartmentalization to persist within yourself, you have to decide which side am I going to go with myself. Because ultimately, each one of us is responsible for constructing our own value system. That means prioritizing what is important and what we think is right and why.
A very powerful message on self-transformation and self-reliance, and I do thank you for lending us your ear for this half hour. I do hope to see you again for the next episode. Take care and goodbye.